This is the Bartholomewtown Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome into another edition of the Bartholomewtown Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bartholomew. On today's episode, a fun conversation with Nick Koulbanis of local architectural design firm SMMA. Now, this was a really interesting conversation assessing some of the key challenges we have here in the state through the lens of design. SMMA have been in the state since 2009, but they've designed a number of well-known buildings here in Rhode Island, including the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island headquarters, Schneider Arena at Providence College, and Brown University Labs and Prince Wind Tunnel at Brown University. More than anything, this conversation turned into a riff on some of the major topics that we always seem to find ourselves in here in Bartholomewtown. How to move Rhode Island forward, this place that we all seem to be on board with, but know that we've got to take some major steps to get to where we want to be. So no better way to do that than through a new perspective, which an architectural design lens certainly is, to this broad conversation we've had here over the course of 165 episodes. All right, and by the way, this episode of the Bartholomewtown Podcast is brought to you by Newport Vineyards, located in Middletown, Rhode Island. Discover more at newportvineyards.com. Coming up this Friday, February 21st, right here at the Bartholomewtown Loft, 669 Elmwood Avenue in Providence. It's Elmwood Songwriters Club, the 2020 season kickoff. Now, Elmwood Songwriters Club is an event presented by Bartholomewtown. What we do is we get 6, 8, sometimes 10 artists from around Rhode Island, and sometimes, actually this year, we're going to be bringing in some national acts, but from around the state, different backgrounds, different portions of the state, and each person performs 2 songs with the order drawn at random. And I've actually added an interactive component where I walk around with this cauldron I found in my parents' basement before they sold their place in Charlestown. And audience members reach into the cauldron and reveal the name of the next performer. We do that all the way through until we get through everybody. There is oftentimes a guest speaker from the Politico media world, and there is also a lively conversation after each event. We stick around for like an hour. It always turns into wild stuff. Last time, somehow we ended up talking about the time frame for the expiration date, I guess, of the Johnston landfill. Whew, all kinds of things. You never know what's going to happen. Elmwood Songwriters Club this Friday, February 21st. Now, it kicks off at 7:30 p.m. There's plenty of seating, plenty of parking right off the highway, the Bartholomewtown Loft, 669 Elmwood Avenue. You can always tweet at me at Bill Bartholomew for any questions. You can also email me. That's probably the best thing you can do. bill@ripodcast.com. Hello. Talk about the Cambridge to Rhode Island pipeline and how what that does to sort of feed the operation.
Sure, that would be great. So SMMA is an architecture and engineering firm. We were started in 1955 by 2 MIT grads and an RPI graduate architect. And at the time, they felt it was very important to think about architecture and engineering as an integrated practice. So they began to really think holistically about buildings and became a very client-focused practice. The move to Rhode Island sort of happened naturally. About 2008, we had just finished up the Blue Cross Blue Shield building in downtown, and we felt it was very important to have a footprint down here, not only for growth of the firm, but reaching another level of talent.
Let's talk about that Blue Cross building for a second, just in terms of, was that a major, in your, at the time, was that a major, sort of landmark project, I guess, flagship project? Did you see it in that context?
It was definitely a big building for us. We had done other high-rise buildings up in the Cambridge, Boston area, but it was really a chance to raise a crane down in Rhode Island area and take advantage of some of the new development happening to the area around the waterfront. And we felt it was very important to invest down here. We had a number of people who were Rhode Island natives from the area and really wanted to do work down here. They were seeing the Boston commute getting worse and worse by the moment. What used to be a 40-minute commute 10 years ago is now an hour-and-a-half commute. And just the work-life balance, living down here and seeing the amenities that exist in terms of the art and entertainment culture, being able to drive 20 minutes and get to a waterfront, and just the whole package. We feel Providence offers a great package for expanding families as well as young individuals.
So that was, if nothing else, almost from an internal standpoint, Providence was a sensible move, not just from the perspective of a market, an emerging market, a place to plant, like a flagship type of project in another location besides Cambridge. It also was a place that you wanted to go to live a better life potentially.
Sure, and I think also to just pick up on the work down here. SMMA has been working with Providence College for 20 plus years, and done about 65 projects at the school, and we felt it was the right time to expand. We're within an hour of the Cambridge office, can build different expertises in the office, but still close enough that we can collaborate with one another and work seamlessly through the process.
All right, let's take it back to sort of like the 36,000 foot view for the listeners out there. What exactly do you do here in Rhode Island?
So in Rhode Island, currently we're working on a few K through 12 projects. We're continuing to work at Providence College on a number of projects. We're doing life science work over at Brown University, and we've also expanded our government practice to work at the Naval War College, as well as using the location of Providence to facilitate other projects that head into southern Connecticut.
Interesting. So it's also a staging ground for expansion.
Correct.
Let's get into, a little earlier than I anticipated, but let's get into the schools. Why not? It's the biggest topic here in the state. Certainly the biggest story of last year. It's probably going to be at the top of any list this year. The design component of that, and the expertise that can be lent to whether it's designing future educational spaces, renovations if they happen, etc. Give us some perspective on that from your chair.
This is actually really interesting because on my morning ride in, I actually heard about the legislature session going in, and one of the big topics being how they're going to fund the K through 12 schools, and it's coming up to relook at the funding aspect of it. So,
Yep.
K through 12 is a huge part of the SMMA portfolio. We've done a number of suburban schools throughout the years, as many as probably any other firm in the area. We're regional leader in the design of K-12. We've also, in the past year, have worked on the BPS master plan, which was a facility assessment as well as educational assessment, looking at 128 schools for the city of Boston and over 11 million square feet. The office is made up the teams of engineers, architects, landscape designers, educational planners. The buildings have become really complex as we've moved to 21st century learning, and we find it takes a very diverse team of individuals to really get the best product.
Let's start with Boston Public Schools. What a project. I mean, massive project. How has that informed you, I guess, looking at, again, you haven't been awarded a bid to work on the Providence Public Schools, but just looking at it from an industrial perspective.
It's an amazing project, and comparing it to Boston, it's not unsimilar to what we're dealing with throughout Providence, Rhode Island, and through the country. There's aging facilities that don't work well for current learning modalities. 21st century education can't be taught in these spaces efficiently. Just because you have classrooms and labs doesn't mean that they can accommodate today's learners.
Right. It's a shift in terms of the end game, and how you get there. It's also a shift in terms of who's in the classrooms and, the variety of, acknowledged learning methods that different people have, different kids have, so you're building to that, and you have to be very intuitive and have a lot of foresight, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think, the way teachers are teaching, it's become more student-centric. There's different paths. Schools are integrating more English learners at a higher rate than in the past. There's more look towards vocational programs. I didn't say that right. So.
I think that was perfectly stated.
But I think, we're looking, a lot of the schools have So I think populations are looking more towards the vocational schools and how they can integrate them into their school systems. We worked on a few comprehensive high schools, which are large. They bring the populations together. They understand that today's problems in industry take expertise in both sides of the coin, and that there can be a lot of sharing of resources in terms of classrooms and other spaces amongst these schools. So in the past, where they were typically split apart, we're seeing a convergence of bringing them back together.
Yeah, 21st century students need 21st century learning, facilities, etc. And that's, it seems like such a basic statement. Here we are in 2020, but it's not happening. We know that. We've seen that daily here in Rhode Island, in Providence, Woonsocket, Cranston, Newport. It's a statewide issue here.
Yeah, I think, students are coming to the classroom with minimum of a Chromebook, if not another device, and it really is a problem if there's lack of access to Wi-Fi, if there's no places to plug them in. So I think the older spaces, hard furniture that's not easily movable, it really doesn't lend to the way they're teaching and the way the students learn and the way they're preparing to work in the workforce going forward.
Let's talk about Treasurer Magaziner's. Well, it's not his, but he's associated with a $250 million school bond here in Rhode Island. What does that do to stimulate this sort of design, this sort of thinking, the conversations just out of the gate before any, shovels hit the Providence soil or whatever it is? Where are you at, knowing that there's $250 million to work with potentially?
I think it's a great first step. It's showing the commitment of the state, the government, and the population to really get behind and put forward some money and put their money where their mouth is. Obviously, schools have become very expensive since 2008. We've looked at a 65% rise in the cost per square foot of new school buildings that we've created. So that is obviously a huge demand on the town and the state resources, but it's really important and ties directly into bringing industry into the state, where people want to live with their children and where they want to grow family and where they want to start their companies.
Do you see your Providence office expanding? Do you see this as, or you've hit the comfort spot, especially in light of the fact you have this expertise in an area that the state has a tremendous amount of need in?
We do see it growing. So currently we're about 20 people. With some people splitting time between the Cambridge and Providence office. We've actually just within the last year signed a new lease to expand our space so that we would like to double the space within the next 5 years or so that we're hopefully getting up to the 35, 40 people down here. One of the challenges is just hiring talent and finding the talent pool and the graduates. We tap RISD, we tap Roger Williams, we have lots of graduates coming out of there, yeah. But making them convinced that they want to raise their families here and stay in the state.
Booyah! I mean, that's the issue. The wheel of employment and workforce development and housing and quality of life, et cetera. I mean, that ultimately impacts your ability to recruit and grow your business. That's a challenge that we have here, no question about it, in this state. Do you see that differing from the challenges, for example, in Cambridge, which it's more of an economic reality challenge where people may not be able to afford to live in Cambridge or Somerville or onwards, even Jamaica Plain at this point.
Sure.
So, but that's a different set of circumstances. Whereas here, there are certainly affordability challenges, but it's more of a, hey, do I actually want to live in Providence?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that even with businesses in industries. It's no surprise Kendall Square's upwards of $100 a square foot, yet companies feel that they still need that footprint. It's really putting a demand on and strain on housing where families can live. Commute times, like I mentioned before, have just become astronomical as families are moving out to more affordable areas and trying to commute in. We have seen biotech companies and mergers such as Takeda and Shire moving a lot of their research into the center core of the city, but moving their manufacturing and other development groups to the outskirts into Lexington. We've seen an expansion through Waltham of biotech companies, 128, Worcester. We're seeing some of that in Providence with the Wexford Cambridge Innovation Center, CIC taking a footprint in Providence. So they're obviously seeing the growth potential to create these startups, incubator spaces down in this region.
All right, let's talk more broadly just about your design process and what that looks like. Where does it begin? Just a general, very vague question.
So it's really unique to every project. We like to focus client-centric and really learning about them and what motivates them. We have early visioning sessions and discovery sessions of what we try to find out what they're doing. And then what we try to do is to bring in our national expertise to sort of test some of those concepts, to really help them think outside the box. Typically, a lot of owners have lived within their walls for 20 years, 25 years, and might not be aware of what the best practices are around the country or around the state. So we really help show them that, start testing ideas. But at the end of the day, it's their project, and we support them. We just want to make sure the project supports them now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now.
This is the Bartholomewtown Podcast.
Support for the Bartholomewtown Podcast comes from Newport Vineyards, featuring Taproot Brewing Company.
Hi, my name is Kevin Beecham. I'm the head brewer here at Taproot Brewing Company in Middletown, Rhode Island. Started basically home brewing when I was 19 years old in my parents' kitchen, just messing around with different flavor profiles and ingredients. Pretty new to the state of Rhode Island and new to Newport especially, but really love it out here. It's a pretty awesome experience and really great to work with local producers and farmers and in a small setting like Taproot Brewing where we can do, a lot of customized, unique recipes. So it's been a lot of fun.
Discover more at newportvineyards.com. SMMA has been around since 1955. What are the biggest changes in the architecture industry since then?
I think similar to probably almost every industry, technology has become a huge driver in the way we communicate and the way we display ideas. It's much easier for us now to sit with clients. We're using VR, 3D modeling, and can really communicate the design a lot better. We have clients into our office. They put on the goggles. They can see the space and they can understand it. It's much different in the past than when they were looking at a set of floor plans or wall sections and really not understanding how it comes together. Some of these programs and computer capacity is also sped up so that you're no longer rendering across 2 or 3 days. You can make changes instantaneously on the fly, show materials, just the rapid prototyping of space and the ability to communicate design not only to the owners but to the contractors through complex 3D built-in information modeling. It takes a lot of the guesswork for the subcontractors out of the field. They understand where the intent for these systems to go, how the intent is for it to build, and it forms a much tighter teamwork between the architect and contractor.
Right. It becomes more seamless and authentic, I guess, and you're able to get to, a bit more creative space. Not that architecture hasn't been creative throughout history, because it certainly has been, but, as a songwriter, someone's once told me there's only so many songs that we can write. The Beatles came, there's already been X number of folk songs. What else can we really do? Is the medium done? And of course, the thing that always seems to save it is technology advancing on that. So it's just about building on the fundamentals, I suppose.
Yeah, we can spend a lot more time designing and less time trying to communicate the design because we have tools at our fingertips. Someone can buy a pair of goggles off of Google or Amazon for $10, put their phone in it and run programs that allow them seeing around the building. And then we have the more complex equipment within the office that we can bring. And the affordability has come way down for 3D printers and laser cutters. And
the last 5 minutes or so here. Let's go back to Rhode Island, which you say you're bullish on. You see the opportunities here. Let's, first of all, we've got this issue with the Providence Place Mall where, there's businesses, significant flagship. I've used that word flagship today more than I think I've ever used it in my life. You know what I mean? We're the flagship network for something, apparently. I wish there was a humorous way to look at that. But there's we've lost significant major businesses at the mall. There's no question that, they got these fights, which are really just, like the muscle cars veering into the Little League parking lot back in the day. They're not necessarily gang warfare and like that playing itself out. But Providence has optical challenges to the outside. How can design and architecture make an impact? And it goes both ways as well. You look at the reaction to the Fane Tower, where, frankly, a lot of the opposition to that came just on the basis that someone didn't like the way it looked in the skyline, without really thinking about it. Dealing with that reality, what can architecture do to try to make people realize that it's okay to move forward, and that the ground that we have here, whether it's converting the mall into housing or, selling people on the idea that there should be development that kind of coexists with the historic aspects of the city?
I think there is a place for new architecture and history within the city and ways for them to work together. I think a lot of it goes beyond the building and really into the placemaking and the experience. You want to encourage people to come to a city. You want them to encourage to shop, to stay. It's not just a retail experience. It's also an arts experience. It's a culture experience. It's a place to meet up with friends. And I think it's really building upon that network. It's the live, work, play balance. And if you have all three, you've got great success.
That's a great answer. That's the best answer to that question that I think, putting it out there that I've received here in just in terms of understanding that it is a it's not about, did you ever go to Nordstrom's and spend money there? It's not about, is there a likelihood that somebody's going to jump out from behind a dumpster and mug you if you go to the mall or whatever? It's about existing in a space that is, intelligent and works for the people, people that are utilizing it, All right, let's look at last question. We've got, the opportunity here in Rhode Island for emerging industries to come here. And in some cases, it's a blank canvas. In some cases, it's just an exciting running start. We've got Quonset, doing mostly military style or branded work. But what other opportunities do you see for other industries to enter Rhode Island? And as you mentioned, you're expanding into Eastern Connecticut, sort of the southern New England region, potentially that will be formalized as a region, an economic development region at some point by the congressman here.
I mean, let's face it, Providence has one of the most ideal locations in all of the country. It's situated directly between Boston and New York, has a very educated workforce, great universities, great amenities. Why wouldn't anyone want to be here? I think the biggest benefit the city did was to move the 195 corridor. It opened almost 40 acres back into the center core of the city, 19 acres of development parcels, and it's really started to take off. I think it needed a linchpin. Brown University had moved the med school down there a few years back. Johnson & Wales had moved the physician's assistant program and started it up in that area, but it really needed something to take off. And for me, that was really South Street Landing. The building sat vacant for a long time, and it was really a sign of development failure in a way. It became this eyesore for the city, and it was an important historic aspect. Now it's been invested by three of the area's institutions, shows their commitment to the city and to really build on this economic powerhouse. Following up on that, you've seen Wexford invest hundreds of millions of dollars across the street in the Innovation Center, Johnson & Johnson coming in, CIC coming in, Brown Continuing Education being expanded. So I feel like moving 195 was a huge advantage to the city in terms of being able to develop new buildings, new parcels that have the large floor plates, can get high floor-to-floor ceilings, and really accommodate the uses of the life sciences, the healthcare, the tech population, and really give them buildings that they can occupy, expand, and use efficiently.
It's really fascinating to think about how much of an impact that potentially can make. And look, Wexford's, I don't know if it's half full or whatever it is. It's gonna take a while to get the wheels turning. I mean, I think it's unfair almost to criticize, the pace of that area taking off. It is Rhode Island. Things move at a certain, slow pace here. But it's interesting how much the physical infrastructure that you described there translates into this space being the 195 land, potentially a new center of downtown, a new center of the state.
Yeah, I think you need a risk taker. You need people that are going to come out and see the vision in the place. If you look at Kendall Square 20 years ago, no one would have gone there. You need a collective whole, a group of like-minded companies, and they will build around each other. No one wants to be the isolated giant that's off doing their thing. It's the campus feel, it's the exchange of ideas, the proximity to the universities. So I think it's a huge first step, and I expected the development to continue pretty strongly in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. And the idea also is that if you build that infrastructure, you get it going, there's going to potentially be a need for public transportation to serve that area. Look, there's a need for public transportation to serve where I am right now. It takes an hour to get downtown by a bus. It's massive disparity in Rhode Island, massive disparity in Providence. But unless you're going to blow the whole thing up, metaphorically, this can at least drive potentially the opportunity for a new infrastructure, whether someone wants to build a monorail or just a bus system that's more hub-oriented, et cetera. This can be the linchpin, if you will.
Yeah, I think, growing up in Westerly, I experienced that all too much. If you wanted to come to Providence and didn't want to take the Amtrak every day, you really had to rely on a bus that went one time a day up and one time a day back. And, continuing and creating more opportunities, more frequency of the schedules will really benefit. It's part of the attraction to the state that you can live anywhere and get easily into the city. So I think what they're doing down in towards Narragansett with the rail lines and continuing the bus routes, South Street has continued their shuttle through the area. And the medical
Express
district
is interesting.
Quonset Express, all these things, the infrastructure, building the roads, the bridges, it all supports the attraction of businesses and population to the area.
Yeah, it's not going to come out of thin air, so you got to start somewhere. SMMA. I'm glad I said it slowly this time, so it doesn't sound like SMA. But thanks a lot. Awesome. As always, a pleasure to spend some time together here on the pod. Remember, new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, and you can email me anytime, bill@ripodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Bill Bartholomew. Talk soon.
This is the Bartholomewtown Podcast.
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,100 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.